Hey guys, I am back, but not with a book review. So as I said before, I just did a book review on Brian Smith's Rock and Roll Reform School Zombies. It is the same day. As you'll notice, I'm wearing the same shirt and stuff. This video will be a little later in the week, but I'm recording it all one day, man, just to give more content out there. And today I thought I would do something kind of fun and do my top 10 of 2020. Now, here's the thing. Only like 3 of these books were from 2020. It says they were published in 2019, but they weren't available for me to buy on Amazon until like summertime. So, I'm counting that 2020. The rest I just discovered. Many of them I've reviewed, and many of them I haven't. But I set a modest goal at the first of the year in 2020. I said I'm going to read 20 books. I know it's pretty modest. I know many people read more than that. But for me, 20 books is pretty good. I surpassed that. I actually read 22, 23 books this year. So, I mean, it's the tiny goals, man. So yeah, I will set a goal for myself this year, which I've already completed one book that I wanted so badly to review in this, but I didn't finish it in time. I finished it a few days ago, so it's going in a 2020 column. So you'll have to wait till next January for me to talk. Actually, I'm going to do a review on that book, but it's going to rank high. I just loved it. Anyway, this is my top 10 books that I've read this year. Here's the thing. I don't have a copy of Catch and Kill, the Ronan Farrow book, which is a nonfiction book about, the Harvey Weinstein case and Matt Lauer and stuff. So that is an honorable mention. I gave the book to my friend. That's how good it was. I said, here, take it. But the things that that guy went through to get that book accomplished and, being spied upon and preyed upon and just not having any fear in getting his work out there for all of us to read is very important for journalism. And I really enjoyed Ronan Farrow's book. Did a lot of great work, a great cause, and it put rich men in power on check. It's like you can't dominate lives anymore, and it was a very important book. But I don't have it, so I can't show it to you. I gave it to my friend, said read it, don't give it back, just pass it along. So here are the books that I have in front of me. 10 to 1, 10 being, they're all good, but they're going in order. And it's a mishmash. It's my fiction books and nonfiction books. So you'll see some true crime in here. You'll see some fiction. You'll see some stuff that I reviewed. But anyway, I'm rambling. Here we go. Number 10 is Wesley Southard's One for the Road. And this is a weird little story. It wasn't my favorite, but it was good enough that it made the list because it was just weird and like this psychedelic, effed up, weird, just like I don't even know how to describe it, but it was a good book, and it was I just reviewed it a few months back, but One for the Road. And I liked the band in here. The band was really cool. Rotten Hell, and the way the band got along, and you know they couldn't stand each other and stuff like that. And then they end up in this weird world, and they don't know how they got there. There's this weird shit going on, all these monsters, and just crazy book. Pick it up. Another good one from Dead A Press. That's from Wesley Souther. That's number 10. Number 9, I reviewed also on my channel. An occurrence in Crazy Bear Valley. I read like 3 or 4 Brian Keene books this year, and I mean he's easily got to be my favorite author. I mean I always leave it up for debate, but he hasn't disappointed me yet. Anyway, this was like a mishmash of this was 2 novellas, kind of like a western feel to them, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was quick. I thought it was great, violent, and it had like Sasquatch in it. So how can you go wrong with that? But if you want to know more, there's a video that's down there somewhere where I reviewed it. Uh, number 8. And let me add that books that I've reread, like Hellbound Heart, Psycho, Jaws, stuff like that I reviewed, I kept out of the list because I didn't discover them in 2020. Um, Number 8, Reincarnate by Ryan Harding and Jason Taverner. This is like an 80s slasher, and it's kind of this serial killer named as Agent Orange. Um, he was an 80s serial killer, and he is back, but he's like a government experiment. So they just kind of plop him in this community where they trap these people in some sort of way to kind of, you know, keep up with the population control. It was really weird. I don't think I'm giving it justice because I want to read it again. I read it in like the beginning of the year and it just escaped me, like a lot of the plot. But I remember really liking it, and I'm a huge slasher fan. So when anybody adds anything to the mix with slasher, it's really cool. It reminded me, like even the killer there reminds me of the Prowler. You know what I mean? But it's actually really original, really cool story. I want to read it again to do a thorough review for you guys. But if I don't get to that and you can buy it first, go ahead. You won't be disappointed. That is Reincarnate by Jason Taverner and Ryan Harding. Okay, number 7 is the first book I completed for 2020, and it's actually a true crime book. It's Deliver Us, Three Decades of Murder and Redemption by Catherine Casey in the infamous I-45 Texas killing fields. I've seen dozens of documentaries on this case, and there's been a serial killer or serial killers, um, and I believe in the latter, who have been these women have been gone missing for like 3 or 4 decades now, 70s, 80s, 90s, and into the thousands. So I don't think it's one person. There's a bunch of suspects, and it's just a crazy, crazy story. And it's not fiction; it's real horror. So um, yeah, I always try to keep up with stuff like this too. Very interesting writing, very sad and unfortunate, but they haven't really apprehended anybody. They have a lot of suspects, but nobody's really been tied to any of this stuff. So, always looking for that developments on that. Number 6 is something I reviewed. It's another Brian Keene book, and it is Urban Gothic. I really enjoyed this book. In my review, I believe I said it felt like Wes Craven's People Under the Stairs, um, and it does, but better. I I loved it. I was just into the characters, into the writing. I thought it was very thought it resonated well with some of the stuff that's been going on in our culture, and just how we judge other people for no reason, and then uh, of course it's Brian Keene, so he's gonna add in some monsters and weird looking people and whatever. But it's just a great book. Uh, my review, I give it a glowing review, so you can go back and watch that. But Urban Gothic by Brian Keene. Number 5 is kind of the first book I reviewed on this channel back in like a little experimentation. I just had my girlfriend point the camera at me, and I was like, I'll just talk about this book. And it's The Lizard Man, the true story of the Bishopville Monster. This is by Lyle Blackburn, and this was a real case of a lizard man who was down in South Carolina in this town called Bishopville and like terrorizing. And the cops took it serious. There is actually documented police reports on this. There are dozens of witnesses. This gathered national attention on CNN, Larry King Live. So it wasn't just some crazy guy, right? Or some crazy person saying they saw a 7-foot lizard guy. I mean, this was thoroughly documented, and thought it was interesting. Lyle Blackburn is a very interesting guy. He does it all. He does a lot of stuff for Small Town Monsters, those documentaries you see about Bigfoot and all these other things. So I hope they actually do one on this lizard man, because this was an intriguing book, and I'm glad I read it. Number 4 is another true crime book. It's a special kind of evil, the Colonial Parkway serial killings. This is an unsolved case where 6 individuals in late 70s and early 80s were killed on the Colonial Parkway in Virginia, and that killer has never been found. And again, there's different suspects, different theories, and this father and daughter trio did a really good job researching, writing really beautifully about the victims, about how they were before their deaths and stuff like that, and they just painted a really good picture of all these the families, and they tried to make it not so heartbreaking and sad, because they really took a lot of time fleshing out and describing the real lives of some of these victims and stuff. And in the end of the book, they go through some of their own theories and their own suspects, which there really are very few, but it's still, I think it's still an open case, but it's unsolved, and it's that book. I was enthralled. It was just one of those page turners, very very intriguing. Number 3, I reviewed. This was the first book I read by this guy. It is Blister by Jeff Strand. I loved this book. It if the other two books before this weren't any better, this would be number 1. This book was absolutely, it had a little bit of everything. There was sadness, there was comedy, um, it was scary in certain parts, but I absolutely love this book. Did a review on it, so you could go check it out. I won't talk about it much more here, but check out my review. Number 2, I want to reread this again because I do want to review it. This was like the third or fourth book I read of the year, so a lot of it, again, I have to refresh my memory before I do a review. And that is Brian Keene's The Complex. Great book. Again, Keene giving us a bunch of characters. Actually, there's one character in here who is fleshed out, who has been in other short stories that he promised he would put in here. Turns out that, it's a serial killer. But great book about and it's just this, it's not zombies, it's just these people who are like crazy, demented, they want to kill, and it says here they're naked, bloodthirsty, and sadistic. I don't know how much more crazy you can get than that, but again, I can't remember. They're not zombies, I know that. Just a fascinating book, The Complex by Brian Keene. Number 2 on my list. And finally, number 1, I reviewed not too long ago. That is Tom O'Neill's Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s. Guys, I could not put this book down. Could not do it. It was impossible. There's so much stuff in this book because this book carries a lot of history with it. And we have been fed a narrative since 1969. And this guy introduces a different narrative, and some of it, some of it is proven, some of it is just speculation, but it all kind of wraps itself up and makes sense. And you could say there's a lot of conspiracy theories in here, but really, in all honesty, it all ties up. And this guy, for 20 years, worked on this book, did his homework, and presented a fascinating piece of work. And it is my favorite of the year. And this was one of those books I said it was released in 2019, but I couldn't get my hands on it until 2020. But anyway, this is my number 1 book of the year. Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s. Absolutely enthralling, just completely interesting, and I know it's cliche to say, but you could not pry this book from my hands if you wanted to while I was reading it. That's how good it was. That's it. That's 10-1. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with a book review shortly, or some other review. I don't know what the hell's going on. But, thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. I will see you again soon. Adios, everybody. Have a good night. Keep reading. Enjoy it.